Welcome to the chart lines video. Let's take a closer look at what we're going to learn in this video. We'll start by looking at horizontal lines. We'll then take a look at vertical lines. We'll then start looking at how to draw trend lines. Finally, we'll look at how to duplicate these lines or any other object. So let's get started. Horizontal lines. Let's take a look at the horizontal line drawing tool. You can insert horizontal lines in your chart by using the horizontal line drawing tool. As you can see here on the top menu, you have the horizontal line icon. And if you click on that icon and hover your mouse over your chart, you'll notice that the icon has changed. It's got a plus sign or a little crosshair and a horizontal line next to it. And if you click on the chart, anywhere on the chart, it's going to insert your line. Now, when it inserts your line, you can see that the line is fixed. You cannot drag it, you cannot move it around, it's stuck in that position, it's locked in that position. Now you can edit this, you can change the line, you can move it around, and the way to do that is to simply double click on the line. So right now I'm going to double click, and as soon as I did that, you'll notice that we have a little box at the right edge of the line, and I've got a little box here on the left hand side as well. Now these little boxes, or nodes as they're called, mean that the line is selected and it can now be moved. So if I were to click on the line, you can see I can move it freely anywhere on the chart that I would like. And as soon as I release the mouse button, it's going to stop there. While the nodes are present on the ends of the line can be moved anywhere. So if I wanted to, let's say, move it up here to show the support resistance area over there, and I want to leave it in that position, I can just double click to remove the nodes, and the line is now locked. Now let's take a look at how to edit the look and the appearance of your lines. I'm just going to add a couple more lines out here. And I think that should be plenty. So let's assume that you wanted to change the appearance of your lines. The easiest way to do that is to firstly select your lines. Right, you can see that I've double clicked and the nodes are now present. So this line can now be modified. If I hover my mouse pointer over the line and then right click on it, you're going to see the horizontal line properties appear. And if I click on that, it's going to bring up the horizontal line parameters window. Now you can give your horizontal lines a name if you want. By default, MT4 will insert a default name for you. There's no need to really use names. But if you want, you can also enter a description. Let's look at some of the style options. You can change the color of the line. Let's make that one turquoise. You can also change the different type of line or the line style. You can make it a dashed line. And of course, you can also change the thickness of the line as well. If you do change the thickness, you're limited to using the solid line only. So let's just remove that. And we'll set that to a dashed line. Let's look at the parameters tab. Over here, you only have one parameter. You've got the value tab, and that is the actual price where your line sits. So right now, it's sitting on the 1.311916 level. So let's just change that and make that 3120. And as soon as I click OK, you're going to see the line shift to the price that I've entered. Okay, there you go. So the line has been moved to the price that I have entered. The style has been changed, as you can see. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that if you change the style on your horizontal line, every new line that you add afterwards is going to have the same style applied to it. So every time you add a new line, it's going to give you the same style. Now, removing lines from your chart is pretty easy as well. You'll notice that once the line is selected, you can right-click on it, and you have some options to delete. You can delete just a single line, or if you want, you could double click on multiple lines, right click on one of them, and you can see the option here, delete all selected. If you click on that, it's going to remove all the lines that were selected. Another way to remove some of your lines is to use the objects list. If you right click on your chart, you will see that you have an option here called the objects list. Let's click on that and open it up. So here we have our objects list. Now, you can select them one at a time, or you can click on the first one, hold down the Shift key, and click on the last one, and it's going to select all. As soon as you have them selected, you can see here that you have the option to edit or delete them. Now, I'm not going to delete them just yet. I just want to show you how to select multiple lines. Let's assume that you only want to delete the first and the last line. What you would do is click on the first line, hold down the Control key, and click on the last line. And you can see now we have 2 of the lines selected. If we hit the delete button, it's just removed 2 of the lines and left us with the last line. Let's just add a few more in here, and I'll show you another way to get rid of them. Let's assume that you wanted to delete all these lines here. If you select them all and you press the delete key on your keyboard, this will remove all the lines that are selected. And by selected, I mean the little boxes appear, the little nodes over here. So if I hit the delete key, it's going to remove all these lines. So there you have it. That's a quick rundown of how to use the horizontal line drawing tool. Vertical lines. In the previous part of this video, we looked at horizontal lines. Now let's take a look at vertical lines. As you can see on the top menu here, we have a vertical line icon. And if you click that line, or that icon, it's going to change your cursor. Again, you can see a little plus sign or a crosshair and a vertical line next to it. And you can move it across your chart. Anywhere that you click on the chart, you're going to insert the line. Now, by default, whenever you add a new line, it's going to be locked in position, so you cannot move it, and it is fixed in that position. Now, if you do want to move it, just like the horizontal line, all you've got to do is double click on it, and you can see down here at the bottom and at the top of the line, you've got these little boxes or handles, or sometimes referred to as nodes. Now, when you have that, and you click on the line, you are free to move the line wherever you want. So you can move it, reposition it, and double click it to lock it back in position. Now let's take a look at modifying some of the properties. Just like the horizontal line, you can hover over the line, right click on it, and you'll see vertical line properties. If you click on it, it's going to bring up the parameters tabs. Over here on the common tab, you have the option to insert names and descriptions, and also change the style of the lines. So let's just go ahead and change that. We've made that medium purple. Let's make it a kind of dashed line. And let's go to the parameters tab. Over here, you can see you can choose the date and the time. Now at the moment, we have it set to the 9th of the 5th, and it is set to 12 p.m. So let's go ahead and change this a little bit. Let's make that first, and let's make that 1500 hours. If we click OK, it's going to apply the styles and change the time and move the line to where we have specified. So let's click on OK. And here you can see the color has been changed, the line style has been changed, and also the actual position itself. It's now gone to the 1st of the 5th and 1500 hours. Now you can add as many lines to your charts as you want. One of the things that you'll notice is that when you click anywhere on your chart, that is where your line is placed. Now, if you wanted to click, hold down your mouse key and move the line across, you can do that before fixing it in position. Just remember to hold down your mouse key. Now I'm holding it down, and let's position it here. So I'm ready to release it. I've released the mouse key, and now the line is fixed. I cannot move it. Now let's take a look at how we can remove some lines. If you right-click on your chart and go to the objects list, once again, you can see that all the available vertical lines are displayed on the objects list. Over here on the extreme left-hand side, you've got little check boxes. And what this means is that if the item is checked, it is selected. You can see the little nodes or the handles at the ends of the lines. And if I wanted to select a few more lines, let's just tick that. You can now see that this particular line has been selected. And if you watch some of the other lines as I tick them, they're going to be selected. Now, just like any other lines, you can delete them from the objects window. So if I click to delete, it's going to remove these lines. Also, if you right-click on the chart or on the line, you can delete them individually. So I've just deleted that line. And because I have these two lines selected, if I were to press the delete key on my keyboard, it's going to delete everything that is selected on my chart. So right now I've got these two vertical lines selected. If I hit the delete key, they should be removed. And there you go. So that's about it. Using the vertical line tool is similar to the horizontal line. It's very easy to use and can be quite useful when you're actually trading. Trend lines. Let's take a look at how to insert trend lines. On the top menu, you have the trend line icon, and that is a diagonal little line. So you can see the trend line icon here. If you would like to insert a trend line, click on this icon, and you'll notice that again, your mouse pointer or the cursor changes its appearance. It's now a little crosshair and it has a diagonal line shown. To draw a trend line, the first thing you need is a starting point. Let's assume we want to use this area here as our starting point. What we will do is position our mouse over the desired area and then click on the left mouse button. Click on the left mouse button, but do not release it just yet. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag my trend line. Now you can see while I have selected the first option, I've clicked it, it's locked my trend line at the starting point. The next thing I need to do is choose an ending point. Now I still have the left mouse button clicked, so let's assume I want to use this as my ending point. I can just hover over it and release the mouse button, and you'll see that it has inserted the trend line. Now, once again, just like with the other lines, you'll notice that if I double click on the trend line, I have the little handles or the boxes that appear here, or sometimes referred to as the nodes. And what this allows me to do is to move my trend line around. Let's assume that I wanted to move this point to a new starting point. All I'd have to do is click on it, drag it, and as you can see, the opposite end remains fixed, and I am free to move the selected node. So I can reposition it that way. Let's take a look at the opposite node at the other end. If I click on that and select it and move it around, I can reposition it. And once I release the mouse button, it's in that position. The center node allows me to move the entire trend line. So as you can see, if I click and select the center node and move my mouse, it allows me to move the entire trend line wherever I want. Let's right click and look at some of the properties. If you right click on a selected trend line, you will see the trend line properties option. Click on that and it's going to give you some options. Now over here you can change the style like we've done with many of the previous items that we've used. Another thing that you'll notice is a lot of these lines have the draw object as background. And if you select that, it's going to draw this trend line behind your candles or behind your price. I personally don't like to use that, but let's take a look at how it looks. Before we do that, let's go look at the parameters window. On the parameters, you can set the time, the date, and the values. You'll also notice that I have the ray option ticked. Now what the ray option does is it allows the line to be projected into the future. Let me untick this to show you what it looks like without the ray. And I've made my changes, so I'm going to click on OK. And as you can see here, our trend line has been modified. It no longer has the ray that goes on into infinity or as far as the chart will allow. I now have an ending point. And again, if I select and I move this around, it allows me to manipulate the line. One other interesting thing that you can do is extend the trend line without adjusting the slope. Now, if you were to simply select the end and try to move it around and extend it, that's fine. But you can see that the slope does get affected. It moves a bit up and down. Now, let me show you a way that you can extend your trend line without changing the slope. Let's assume that you want to extend in this direction, but you want it to keep the slope fixed. All you need to do is hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, select the end you would like to move, and then move it. Now, as you can see, my mouse pointer is moving up and down, but the slope is not being changed. The line is being extended back and forward, but the slope remains exactly the same. And if you release the buttons, your trend line is now adjusted. Let's take a look at how to delete trend lines. One thing to bear in mind is that when you change the style of a trend line, it's going to affect all the future trend lines that you do draw on your chart. So let's just insert a few trend lines. And let's take a look at how we can get rid of them. At some point, your chart's going to be clustered with trend lines and you want to remove them. All you've got to do, just like with the other lines, double click on them and hit the delete button to delete all the trend lines that are selected. Now you would have noticed 2 of the trend lines have been removed because both of them were selected. The other remaining trend lines were not selected and these will remain fixed in place. Let's go take a look at the objects list. Right click on the chart and go to the objects list. Here we can now see the trend lines we have in our chart. We can edit them and we can also delete or remove them from the chart using the objects window, just like we have with all the previous lines. So there you have it. This is the way we will insert trend lines when using the MT4 platform. How to duplicate an object. In this video, I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can duplicate objects on your chart. Now this is very simple. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to start off by inserting a few lines. I've got a vertical line there, got a horizontal line in there, going to insert a trend line, and let's just go ahead and insert something different. Let's go and insert a shape. Let's put in a rectangle, and there we have a rectangle. So we have a number of different objects, and if we wanted to duplicate the object, let's just start with a trend line. Let's assume that we wanted to, well, before we do that, let's insert our trend line properly. I'm just going to insert that there. And I'm also going to extend it using the Shift key. Let's just move this one out the way. Okay, so right now I have my trend line. And let's assume I wanted to insert a duplicate of this trend line across the highs. All I would have to do is double click to ensure that the handles appear or that the line is selected. I then need to hold down the Control key on my keyboard. So I've just pressed Control. I'm going to click on the trend line and I'm going to drag. And look at what happened. It gives me a duplicate of the existing trend line. So I can choose where I want to drop this trend line. Let's just insert it there. I've released the mouse button. I've released the Control key on my keyboard. And you can now see that I have a duplicate of this line. Let's try this out with the vertical line. I've just selected by double clicking on the vertical line. I'm going to hold down the Control key and I'm going to click on the line and drag to reposition my duplicated line. So I've just clicked on the line, and as I move away from the line, you can see I have a duplicate. It works the same way with the horizontal lines. Double click to select, hold down the Control key, click on the line and drag away. And as soon as you're ready to position it, just release the buttons. There you go. And this works with pretty much all kinds of objects that will appear in the objects list. Here we have a rectangle. And I have selected it. You can see the boxes or the handles or nodes. And if I hold on the Control key, click on the box and drag away, here we have a duplicate of that box. So this is an easy and a very quick way to duplicate some of the line tools and the objects that you have on your charts. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.